Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here I like to explore the world of fountain pens. And we do a lot of budget entry-level fountain pens around here because a lot of people new to the hobby are looking for an affordable way in. A lot of people who are enthusiasts and long-term users know that sometimes there are tremendously good writing bargains out there that are just fun to have in your collection. So we do that around here quite a bit. And today I wanted to look at the Pelikan Ineo. This pen came out like a year ago. I can't tell that it's gotten a whole lot of traction in the fountain pen market. I know for me, it stayed in back of mind. So while I was on a recent pen buying journey around the interwebs earlier this month, I threw one of these in the cart, and here it is. I've been writing with it for a couple of weeks, and I have some definite opinions and takes on this pen and some of its features and quirks. So let's just dive straight into this review. So this is the box that it comes in. I think the packaging is nice. The pen is about 30 some odd bucks. I've seen it kind of vary within a $7 or $8 range, but low to mid 30s is what I'm seeing it at most of the time. And for that, you do get a nice little presentation cardboard box, but this is really just shipping and store packaging. What's really interesting is the metal box inside, which you will immediately notice does not actually represent this particular pen. For whatever reason, I'm sure it's cost cutting, Pelikan decided to use the same box for the fountain pen that is used for the Ineo ballpoint pen, and that is what you have a facsimile of here on the metal box. I think it looks cool, but when you first take it out of the cardboard, you go, whoa, 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 did they send me the wrong pen? No, they didn't. Every one of these pens that I've seen has the exact same box, so that's just one of the features and quirks, right? Anyway, I think it looks good. The color of the cardboard and the metal box will match whatever finish you get the pen in. I think there are about 6 different colors available. I think this ocean blue and the red are my favorites. The black also is a nice matte stealthy looking pen. But you have choices. That's the point. You have choices. Now when you open up the box, you will find that ocean blue pen in there, and it's well taken care of, comes in good shape. There's nothing else in the box except for a cartridge, and we'll get to that cartridge here in just a minute, because that is going to be a topic of some discussion, I am sure, among you when the comments start to flow. But first, let's check out this sleek minimalist design, and it is a minimalist pen. That is what they were going for, and they've definitely achieved that. So you don't get a clip. Instead, you get this roll stop, and I think that looks cool. Certainly in the roll stop roll, R-O-L-E, it does its job and does it well, so long as the pen is capped, because let me just jump to this. It does not post. Not real sure what the reason for that is and what design decision necessitated that, but yeah, it does not post. For some of you, you won't care. For some of you, that will be a deal breaker, so just know that right up front. Now, at the top, you of course have the familiar Pelikan logo etched into that ocean blue anodized finish, and of course, that looks just fine. Here you can see the shape of the pen cap with that roll stop. Then we come straight down to the Pelikan name just below the barrel line, and then we come down to, well, nothing. We come down to nothing. Again, minimalism is the theme here. So what you have is an anodized matte finished slick pen. I think it looks good, and from that point of view, I think they nailed that. And when again you take that cap off, it is friction fit. You find a very slender grip section, so you have to like a thin pen. Lengthwise, just to give you a little bit of an idea, I pulled out my Caran d'Ache 849 fountain pen, which of course has a replacement nib from Diplomat, and you can kind of see it is a much longer grip section. That if you're familiar with this, it will feel similar in hand, because as you can see, the diameter is similar, but you get a little bit more of a grip section to find your sweet spot there. It is a steel nib, stainless steel, with the Pelikan logo. It only comes in medium. That is going to be another little controversial deal here, I'm sure, but that is what we've got. Appears to be a number 5 with a plastic feed, all pretty much standard fare. Minimalism. It's not just a design ethos. Sometimes that's the option list. Now, ergonomically, the pen is fine. Like I said, it is a thin section. I'm going to hold it a little bit higher when I write, but the pen is really well balanced, and because you don't post it, there is no back weight, and it's long enough that if you have larger hands and don't mind that thin grip, it's going to feel quite good in hand. And I find it a pleasant pen to write with, again, as long as you don't mind the section. Now, when we open it up, this is where there may be some more of those comments coming. So it is not a cartridge converter pen. It is a cartridge only pen, and it's actually more specific than that. So there is a spring inside, and that's relevant to the cartridge discussion. There is a spring inside to make sure that the cartridge stays firmly in place. That's a nice feature, but of course that only affects you if you use an international long cartridge, and that is the only way you're going to ink this pen. Say, what? Yeah, that's the only way you're going to ink this pen. You can't use international shorts. They actually will get caught inside the barrel, and you'll have a difficult time removing an extra cartridge if you stuffed it up in there. You can't use a converter. The barrel is not a large enough diameter for Pelikan's own converters to fit in there, or a Schmidt converter. Not going to happen. You will use an international standard or standard international long cartridge. All else ist verboten. So it does give you an opportunity to use your Edelstein cartridges. I didn't do that, but I will next time. Those are long, so they're going to fit. But otherwise, if you want to use bottled ink, you're going to be refilling a long cartridge after you've used it up. I'm not sure that the market, frankly, was asking for a pen that only uses a long cartridge. I am grateful that it's not proprietary because Pelikans use standard internationals, but this just feels like a question nobody was asking, and it would have been so easy to drag the cursor while they were still in their CAD software and enlarge that well enough to use a converter, and it seems like it would have been a no-brainer. No offense to Pelikan, I'm sure that they could give me reasons why they felt that was justified, but the real question is going to be, do you feel that's justified? Because that is quite the limiting factor for a lot of users. Long cartridges here in the U.S. are almost always an internet-only purchase and not the preference these days of most buyers. So I don't know why that is, but that's the decision they made. That aside, if you don't care about that, if you're like me and I actually don't have strong feelings, I'm just going to refill the long cartridge, then you can easily move on. But again, if you were hoping for a converter to go in there, the only one that I've seen people had success with is actually converters made for pocket pens, like the Monteverde little tiny converter, which I don't even like, so that's not a feature to me. That's a bug. Anyway, let's move on to the size comparison. We'll see how it stacks up to some similar pens, and then we'll do our writing test. All right, for our size comparison today, we have first that Pelikan Ineo, and then we have the Carandash 849, the Hongdian Black Forest, the original Hongdian for me in my collection, and then a Lamy All-Star. And you can see pretty standard fare when it comes to the length of the pen and its capped length. Diameter, very similar to that Hongdian Black Forest. There are several things about it, even though their designs, even though the appearance is really quite different, there are several things that reminded me of that Black Forest, and that's why I pulled that out of my collection to put it up here. Next to that, very similar grip section size, anodized finish. The Ineo is more minimal in its design and a cleaner design than the Black Forest. But, some definite similarities. And here are the pens in their uncapped length, and I'm not going to post them because the Ineo does not post. And here you can see it's about the same length as a Lamy Safari, very, very similar there. But again, thinness is much more like the Black Forest or the Carandash grip section. That gives you a better idea, too, of how much longer that grip section on the Ineo really is than the other two pens. My apologies for the dirty nib here. I tried to clean that, and the more I tried to clean it, the more the ink just kept flowing, because that is a filled pen. Drove me nuts. I gave up, so if that's driving any of you crazy, lo siento. All right, let's do the writing test of this pen. And I've written with it quite a bit, and I think it's a good pen when you put the ink to paper. Now, the one thing that will drive a few people crazy, you can only get it in this medium nib, or at least the shops that I looked at, that was all that was available. That's an unusual choice, not unheard of, but unusual. We do like our options, right? Even on our inexpensive pens, we want options. Ink is the included long cartridge. It does come with one long cartridge when you buy the pen, and that is Pelikan's own Königsblau or Royal Blue. Don't forget the umlaut. And the steel nib, again, the number 5 stainless steel nib, does have just a little bit of springiness. Not at all a flex nib, but you can get a little bit of line variation. And I'm going to do a little comparison here. So that's the Ineo's nib. I'm going to use about the same pressure. Now my 849 here does not have a standard nib. That nib was complete junk, and there's a video about that. And no, the company did not stand behind it. But I did swap in an extra Diplomat nib I had, and it also has some nice spring to it. It is also a medium. There's a darker blue ink in here. And let me tell you, this Diplomat nib, which came from a Magnum, is so much better than what comes on the Caran d'Ache anyway, that this went from being an absolute disappointment to being a great pen, but not because of anything that the company itself did. They stonewalled me when I asked for a replacement nib. Anyway, the Pelikan, as you can see, does get almost as much springiness here, but not quite as much. But that wasn't something I expected, so that's really just kind of a bonus. If you're wondering about the connection there, that's just places I'd really like to visit that I've never gotten to. So writing-wise, I find that it has a good smooth nib, as you would expect, even in a steel nib from Pelikan. I would say the nib is, quite similar to the one that I have in my M200, and just without the gold plating, it's not quite as nice looking. The aesthetic is more minimal, but the nib is quite similar to that pen. The biggest deal is oversimplified inking options. That's going to be the deal breaker for some of you. I just know it. But let's see how the nib keeps up in our speed test. This again will be in real time. I did lift. I always lift somewhere. Okay, but it didn't lift anywhere else. So it got a little thin here, got a little thin there. This was a lift, and this was a lift. But yeah, in normal writing, I find that it keeps up. But there was a little bit of a something right there where it didn't quite. Now I did have that cap off for a long time while I was doing the size comparison, so there could be a little bit of that going on there. But again, in normal writing, I've had no issue. So this is a value positioned pen, so let's talk value for a second. I think materials wise, this is either aluminum or an aluminum alloy. I think that's nice, feels good in hand, is a really nice, light, well balanced pen. The anodizing is done very well, as you would expect, and the minimalist design will have an appeal for some. I like it, and I know some of you will like it. That plastic grip section is comfortable. It is thin, but materials-wise, I think that's well done. The nib has written well straight out of the box and for a couple of weeks. Price-wise, it falls right in the middle of the pens that I showed you. It's going to be about the same as that Lamy All-Star. Some of you are going to say, well, then I'm going with the Lamy. Some of you will say, oh, I've wanted an alternative to the Lamy, and this might be something that's different enough that you might like that a little bit better. The Black Forest will have some things that this pen does not that you might want. It has a clip, it has a converter, and has some options, although, that's not the most common ink cartridge that it uses in some parts of the world. So, there's give and take on all of these. But if you want a German pen, you want one that is in that entry-level-ish price range, and you like minimalist design, this may be something for you. If you demand a converter, you're going to be disappointed. But if you don't mind using international longs, hey, this is the pen for you. And there are some good color options out there. You've got Edelstein options that have some great inks and are already international longs anyway. And Monteverde offers some cartridges that will work here as well. So, just check around and see what your ink options are and whether or not they're going to match your desire to use this pen, and go from there. That would be my suggestion. But what do you think? Share that in the comments below. As always, please share this video with somebody you think might be interested in this pen. Like and subscribe so that you can see when new videos are going to drop. And God bless you, and I hope you have a great week.